Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty. Arganissima, New York.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Hurricane?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great.
That's good. That's good.
Well, good morning to you.
Yeah, that's right. And good evening to you.
I always love that. That's unbelievable. Like, you guys have winter, we got summer. I mean, it's amazing.
I know, it's an amazing world, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's listen, I mean, we do have people that feel that it's flat, so I'm not going there, but I had to. I'm sorry.
Well, if it's flat, then we're sort of just around one side, okay?
Hey, listen, it's
actually, Hurricane, that's actually a good point. If it was flat, how come we've got winter when you've got summer? All right.
I rest my case, right? But, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Doctor, for even just extending the opportunity here to be on the show back. Well, so it's funny because we were just talking about the flat Earth theory and just as a conversation, just a little fun time there because of where you are and where we are. But really, just while we're waiting for people to actually throw in some questions here, why would people think that? I mean, just from your perspective as a psychologist, what would be something that can generate that kind of thought when someone can maybe not believe a reality?
Okay. Belief is on a continuum, and Hurricane, I've got to say, I've just been putting out a few blogs on belief because belief is an area that we don't understand terribly well. So belief is actually a word that encompasses many different things. We've got belief in science, which is based on evidence, and we actually change our beliefs. So for example, when I was growing up, we believed that there were 9 planets in our solar system, right? Scientists now believe there are 8 planets in our solar system, right? And at the moment, we believe that the speed of light is a constant, right? But there are some scientists that are challenging that. They do not believe that the speed of light is a constant. And so we change all our beliefs based on evidence there. Then we've got belief in faith issues. So let's say we can all share science because it is the way that we negotiate the known world, whereas our belief in faith issues are how we negotiate the unknown world. And because that's the unknown world, our ideas can be different. So you get the various faiths. You get Islam, you get Christianity, you get Hinduism, and I consider atheism another belief system. Okay, because there are some scientists that are atheists and there are some scientists that have a faith. Then as a psychiatrist, I work with people's beliefs about themselves, the subjective beliefs. So somebody will say to me, I am a worthless person. Life is not worth living. And they believe these things. So we actually move to change those things. All right. So getting back to your question, Hurricane, about the flat Earth thing, the flat Earth theory actually is in the area of faith. And so the argument, and I've worked with people who believe in a flat Earth, the argument goes like this. It is like, if God says that the Earth is flat, then doesn't matter what science tells us, the Earth must be flat, right? So it becomes a faith-based issue. And just as some people, let's say scientists, would attack the idea that Jesus Christ rose from the dead because that is without scientific bounds, all right, the flat Earth is a long way extension of that. Now, the difference is that there are a lot of people who believe, because of their faith, that Jesus Christ rose from the dead, but there is only a small subculture of people that believe that the Earth is flat. So that's why science would tend to put things like the Earth being flat as a delusion, because there's so much scientific evidence against it. Whereas people who believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead are not delusional, because that is part of a well-worn faith system. Sorry, Hurricane, I don't know if you wanted such a long answer, but I thought I'd give it complete.
No, actually, it's very enlightening, because you mentioned religion, and it's amazing, because not all religions believe that, like for example, in Islam, and I think even Judaism, the Earth is not really flat. so there's evidence in the textbook that provides that the universe is scientific, and it has metrics, and then there's orbits, and there's all that. So and I think even in the Bible, I don't think it has any indication that it's flat. But again, it's debatable. It's debatable. I'm not gonna.
Well, actually, in the Bible, there's the idea that there's a dome, all right, so which says that the Earth is sort of round. But in another place, there is some reference to the four corners of the Earth, all right, and I think that's how people get to a flat Earth. I'm actually not sure on that. That's not my area, Hurricane.
No, it was just interesting that he said that, because, well, science and religion are two components, I think, or belief systems, in a way, to your point.
That's right.
That we live with as humans.
That's right.
It's either a combination of both or one or the other.
Yes.
And even the religions, as different as they might be, they all kind of have similar, background, similar type of tenets, right?
Yeah.
So it is an interesting, concept. But again, listen, like you said, people believe. And sometimes they believe based on what they've read and maybe not understand. There's sometimes reading is one thing, understanding is another.
Well, that's right. That's right. And Hurricane, that's why I made the distinction between belief in science, because we change our belief in science all the time. 10 years ago, psychiatrists did not believe that what you ate affected your mood, right? That was kind of a new fringe belief, whereas now it's become a mainstream belief because we have the evidence for that. So science is the way our brain negotiates our day-to-day physical environment, whereas belief in faith issues is how our brain navigates the unknown world.
Right. Listen, it is amazing how humans, behavior can be impacted, and decision making and all these things through concept, right? And we perceive the world through concept. So it's however we've been trained, educated, or taught, through our parents' systems, schools, and religious systems and things like that. So it's amazing how folks can just have these ideologies.
Well, Hurricane, now you've brought in another aspect which is very important, and that's the cultural aspect to our beliefs. And whereas, let's say, America in, let's say, about 70 years ago, there are a whole lot of people sharing the same belief system, right? But with the movement of people around the world, the America of today is very different. It's a mix of different cultural belief systems all blending, which in a sense enriches us because we can all have this expanded mind view, but it does lead to the kind of culture wars that we see out there at the moment as well.
Well, true. I mean, in some countries, you don't see diversity. And so
No,
you only have one culture, one ethnic background, and that's about it.
Right.
Even the food is the same. And it's amazing. Like I live in, in borderline Jersey, New York, and I live on the Jersey side, but I work in New York every day. And it's probably one of the very few places where you can really, walk around cultures from one block to the other. It changes. You can find any type of ethnic food you want. If you crave something from around the world, you'll find it, and it probably will be authentic. So it's amazing. And you're right. But now as you travel further inland, that changes. So you go to the Midwest, for example, it's lesser, there's less, diversity and things like that. So even food wise, you're not going to find a good, just simple. It's a joke, but you go to some places, you want good pizza. Some say, oh, there's nothing like New York pizza, right? Because it's really the right thing. Now, some people can debate that, but but the fact is, you hear that kind of comments, when you're traveling around the States, and it's pretty, large space. I mean, I can't compare to you guys. I mean, obviously, you guys are a continent on your own.
Well, no, that's true. But Hurricane, as you said, diversity is actually the exception in our world. Most of the 200 odd countries in our world have cultural unity rather than diversity. There's only a few places which are becoming more and more diverse. And the other thing is, the larger the city, the more diversity you will find. Whereas the more you go into rural areas or small towns, the less diversity you will find. And diversity is something that is moving in across the whole world. It's slowly getting there. And to do that, people need to be culturally accommodating. And that's okay, because we all grow as people through that. But some people are faster to change than others. And so you get some of these conflicts. But yeah, when I was living in New York City, I could find the best pizza, but amazing things, a Romanian restaurant, an Ethiopian restaurant, a whole lot of different things. And we're all enriched by that sort of experience. Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for, again, any questions to come on through, I do have a few that we can ask that I have through some other friends that send them to me.
Yeah,
but since you mentioned this concept of cultural diversity and things like that, I mean, there is a psychological effect, to it, and a reaction as well. You said it there, you were being nice because you made it sound very sweet, but it creates severe conflicts, and so there's racism, there's more to it that's created because of immigration, because of some folks are not willing to see that diversity, and again, it is still psychological, because there are I guess these are inherited type of beliefs, and or we are a certain way, we can't have the other belief, the other religion, the other culture. So there is a psychological factor to all this. I'm not sure if you ever had cases where people come in to discuss that.
Hurricane, you seem to be touching upon just the sort of things that I'm working on at the moment.
Nice.
We've got a podcast series at the moment on how to negotiate diversity, because the science is quite clear. The science says that our brains love familiarity. So what we're familiar with, we will tend to replicate. But the science also shows that if we're exposed to people of difference, all right, that after a period of initial hostility, which is what we're in at the moment, we grow to like people, all right? So let's say there are cities like San Francisco, Vancouver, Sydney, they all had their Chinatown, all right?
Yes.
And when the Chinese people first came to these cities, they were met with hostility. It was not a friendly place. But today, you get people debating who has the best Chinatown. Does San Francisco have the best Chinatown? What about Sydney's Chinatown? Obviously, I like Sydney's Chinatown, okay? But there are so many cities that had their Chinatown because people at first were hostile towards difference, so the Chinese in this case. Then they become curious. Oh, I wonder what their food tastes like. I wonder why they wear clothes like that. And then finally, they not only accept them, but they celebrate them. And so, okay, so in Brisbane, Australia, we've gone through a Greek festival, all right? And you will go through your multicultural festivals. You will have your gay pride festivals. And there is all celebration of different diversities in different places. And this is what the science shows, that given enough time, and given enough exposure, we will all move beyond initial hostility to actually like each other. Because you know what, Hurricane? In the end, we all belong to the family of the human race.
Well, I wish and I hope that one day we all agree to that fact and stop bickering amongst each other about dumb things and about material stuff in this world, and fight over things and kill each other and steal from each other and hate each other. That would be that would be an ideal world, right? The joke is, these days, I mean, I see a lot of TikToks and other type of I guess social media about UFOs and aliens, and there's discussions about maybe the government's secrets is going to come out about UFOs and things. So you know what, if that was true, I would like to have that happen, just so we can all shut up and agree to one concept and do almost the concept of the movie Independence Day. So we all
The amazing thing is, if we were actually involved in a conflict with aliens from outer space, we'd leave all our culture wars and we would unite and say, hey, let's get together and defeat this common enemy,
Well, even that thought itself, right? If you think about it, we always think that these guys are going to come because they're going to be superior than us, and therefore that we're going to be the lower or the inferior species. So that's already built in our, mind, that it's always about who's superior, and that the superior, species is going to be annihilating the other one, and therefore we have to fight back. But who says that it has to be that way? That's really the question.
In fact, Hurricane, this is why I come back to the science. The science would actually say that if we're exposed to diversity, exposed to different people, we grow to like them. And you know what? I believe that actually goes for aliens as well, all right? If they exist, all right, and they came to visit, the more exposure, the more we'd sit down and have a cup of tea or a beer with them, the more we'd grow to like them.
Well, it's funny because there are some memes and some posts that out there that they kind of look the other way, like aliens look at us and, oh, these are not civilized. The human race is not ready. They're not ready for us yet. So we'll come back another millennia or something like that. So these are funny memes and things. But really, I mean, I think the debate in humanity is about who is stronger. And it's been since the beginning of times. I mean, the rules of the jungle, the law of the jungle, the higher species, the more powerful species is gonna be the prevalent and the more powerful one, who's gonna be able to have more power.
All right, I just want to add to that, because our view of Darwinian natural selection and evolution has concentrated on survival of the fittest. And that does lead to the dominance hierarchies that we have in our society at the moment. However, there is a whole side of nature that we have overlooked, and we have taken it for granted, and we take it for granted in our own lives as well. And this is the nurturing side of nature. This is the penguins who will take care of their eggs to the death in freezing cold. These are the plover birds that will attack anybody to protect their young. All throughout nature, there is this protection, this parenting protection, and, dare I say it, love and nurturing for a species, okay? And we know that wolves will actually love and protect and nurture other species as well. And we don't talk about that being just as important in evolution, this nurturing aspect. If we didn't have a family structure, if we didn't have people to share our lives with, if we didn't love friends and get on with colleagues, all right, our social hierarchy structures would drive us to destruction. So there's a balance. Yeah, there is a survival of the fittest and who's most powerful, but there's also a sharing of love and togetherness, and let's band together and survive all of this together. And I think that's not emphasized in the science.
Well, so here's a question to that.
Yeah.
Why do we have to think about, surviving it, or why we have to think about, protection, or, who is going to beat who and stuff like that? What drives that?
What drives that? Okay. So the scientific point of view is that what drives all of that is what drives the brain. The brain is a wonderful, wonderful instrument, if you like, that helps survival. All right. Its whole point is to learn from the past so we can create a better future, so that we can survive whatever environment we happen to be in. So from that, there is this not only love of life, but a real thriving and a real lust for life. Okay, I want to be alive, and basically everything that lives wants to live to the fullest. Now, when you have that as a basis, you can see that you need two sides of things. There is this survival of the fittest, where we're in competition with each other for limited resources, but there's also this cooperation, particularly among humans, right? Where, you know, if you and I work together, Hurricane, both of us can do better. And we're in a situation globally where if the whole world could actually learn to pool its resources and do things together, right, that we could actually survive things like pandemics, climate change catastrophes, whatever else. If we actually pool our resources together, we could survive too. And that's scientific. That's actually part of evolutionary theory.
Well, actually, it's funny because I've seen that in real life. I've seen that actually in when, like, a couple of years back, we had Hurricane Sandy up in the Northeast,
Yeah.
and it was devastating, and people did come together. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen that in 9/11. People get together as a nation.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I actually did the experiment, you know, in a training mode. You know, so I do these team building exercises.
Yeah.
So we went to this. I'm not sure if and you guys have Dave and Buster's. You probably do. So it's a restaurant, like a burger, right? You know, like a franchise type, but they do have like game rooms and activities and things like that. So we did almost a scavenger hunt, you know, in groups. And so what we did is, you know, I divided the teams in multiples. So and then we all have a quest to get certain things, you know, and the team that collects all those things first, you know, wins, right?
Yeah.
So for about a half hour, everybody was fighting against each other, competing against each other. All of a sudden, two teams started, and I saw, I'm the lead of this because it's building a team. So I'm just observing how they behave, and everybody's got a lead appointee.
Yeah.
And so about half hour in the game, and it takes about an hour, I noticed that two teams started allying, started an alliance, and therefore they started looking together for the same clues. And basically, you look for one, I look for one, so we can move, and then we share the result.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as the first two, then now the third team is trying to do the same. So I stopped the game. I said, now you got the concept.
That's right. That's
now
very cool.
Now you got the concept. The whole exercise was not so much how to get who's going to get first, is how we can get together. We were able to solve the whole thing in less time than we would have done it, you know, individually.
That's right. That is wonderful. That is wonderful, Hurricane, because that actually shows that together we survive better. And unfortunately, we've got shows on television that shows how people are all against each other. And that's because of some intrigue in us that likes that for entertainment. But if you took the desert island situation where two people were shipwrecked on a desert island, there was nobody else around, do you think that they would live on opposite ends of the island, you know, and start a war? Or would they live close and sort of say, hey, what are you good at? And what are you good at? And let's pool our resources and let's try to help each other survive. Obviously, they would stick together. And this is why for a lot of young people that I have worked with that, let's say, get into the drug scene, okay, and they lose their way in life. One of the problems is not that this is a difficult environment to survive, but in a way it's too easy. We have too much entertainment. We have too much pleasure. So one of the therapies that works to get people out of this is called wilderness therapy. So you imagine these young males, 16 to 18, they go out into the outback and they learn abseiling, they learn camping skills, they learn swimming skills, they learn fishing skills, they learn to survive in the bush. And all of a sudden, they get together just as your teams did in that restaurant, okay? And they start to help each other. And here's the thing, they learn to trust each other. And that feeling of trust, when you trust somebody else, is an amazing feeling. It feels fantastic. And because when you're, let's say, abseiling, somebody else has got the ropes for you, you have to trust your life to somebody else. And that feeling of trust becomes such a beautiful feeling that they go back into society and they want to make connections with people, all right? They don't want to just sit at home and play games because they want that feeling of trust. And so any job that you get, You start to have that feeling of trust. And a job, a corporation, ideally, is people working together for a common goal so that that business can survive.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, the world we live in today, I mean, we have countries, we have states, we have territories, and multiple countries, right? Everywhere there's that kind of thing. And you'll find within the same country some sort of division still. The Northerners, the Southerners, the the Westerners, the Easterners, and they have this, that. But it's so funny because we're talking world resources. Like even today, we have over 7 billion people on this planet, right? And there are people that would argue that we are depleting resources and there's too many of us, and there's got to be a solution for that. But there's the Earth still has a lot to produce, and we can work together towards it. But then there's the factor that you have people who have the wealth part, right? So there's the wealth part, right? I got a lot of wealth. I might not even be able to count how much money I have yet. I'm not contributing to anything with it, right? There are people that literally, even if they wanted to spend all their money, they can't. Just physically, they can't. There's just too much of it, right? And some of that percentage of that can actually resolve a lot of issues out there. And I've studied a lot of stuff about that, where people there was, I think, a study where it showed even if you give everybody the same exact amount of money, the majority will deplete that money, and only the few will actually reinvest it and make gain again and profit and make, become rich again, even if it's not a standpoint. So why is that possible? I mean, how is that even, comprehensible? Because I mean, from a psychology, perspective, is there a driver? Is that the same base that we talked about in terms of humanity or evolution, just how we perceive the world?
Hurricane, the mind is an amazing place, and it is so vast and so complex that we do not understand it fully yet. Right. So let's say from my tradition, the psychiatric tradition, we looked to two different things that drove us at first. OK, and one was actually aggressive, competitive drives. And the other one was actually loving, creative drives. OK, and since that time, psychiatric theorists have postulated a whole lot of different drives. OK, but there is something already in this idea that we're driven by aggression and love, sex, and creativity that already shows those opposites in the evolutionary theory that I was talking about, right? The aggressive drive is that survival of the fittest, right? And unfortunately, one of the side effects of having a society as we do today based on money is you can count money and you can see who's doing better. So that feeds into that drive of the mind that I want to do better, but I want to do better on my own. Okay. Once you start looking at the loving drive, the sex drive, the creative drive, then things start coming down to, okay, how can we make our community better? How can we have cohesive families? How can we have a cohesive social life that we actually get to enjoy all this life, all right? And at the moment, the pendulum has swung in the way of this aggressive, competitive, money-based drive, but there is a possibility always sitting there that we could start to solve some of the world's problems together. We've got the technology to work out the resource problem, but at the moment, the scientists don't talk to the entrepreneurs, who don't talk to the politicians, who don't talk to their lawyers, who don't talk to the education sector. We're all very disparate, okay? And I don't know how we're going to do it, okay? But somehow we've got to come together for the common good so that we can use each other's resources, just like on that desert island. We sort of say, okay, you're good at that. You do that. I'm good at this. I'll do that. Let's do it for our common good. So I don't know how to get the pendulum going the other way. But
I don't think you and I are going to solve that problem.
No, but we have studies on people who are very altruistic, people who will go the extra mile, let's say during 9/11 or through Hurricane Katrina, or even what's happening in Miami at the moment, all right? There will be acts of heroism, all right? Why do humans do that? And studies have shown that humans have altruism as part of their nature, as long as we value it as a culture, as long as we still clap and give heroes medals and say, you know what, that's a good human being. And there is something in us that admires people who will make the ultimate sacrifice, like soldiers, okay, or put their lives in danger, like heroes in 9/11 or in Hurricane Katrina, just to help out their human beings. And there's something of that in all of us. There's something of that that wants to do the heroic right thing, to share our love and trust with each other.
Well, doctor, I mean, I do believe that that is the fact. And I do believe that all humans are capable of doing that, and they do want that. And I still think that the majority will always, want to have that result.
Yeah.
And I hope that, and we've seen events that did bring in, countries together, that brought, nations together. And I mean, this pandemic has been a big test. And in some of it, there was unity, and some of it there's kind of, I mean, originally it was unity. Now we have a little bit of a a split in terms of who is pro vaccine and anti-vaccine. We have all these arguments that are happening in the world right now. But I think that's the same concept here. People are just, they side based on their own knowledge, I think.
The vaccine is a good example, actually, because in the world at the moment, there's still a disproportion of first world countries basically getting all the vaccines and developing nations not getting enough vaccines. And this is actually an opportunity for us as first world countries to show our humanity, all right? And so let's say there's a G8 summit going on at the moment, G7, sorry, and nations are starting to pledge vaccines for some of the other nations. But we actually need more, all right? We actually need to sort of show, no, we're here to share our resources as well as create our wealth. And look, I don't know how we're going to do that, right?
Well, listen, I mean, more discussion, more people getting positive, energy, and more people, really learning how to cope better, in this world. And we listen, I have this very simple principle, right? We all come to this world, and we shall all depart from this world. And the time between the first, entry and the exit is not that big and long. People think it's forever. It's not. No. Time is when you start. I always have this test. I tell this to my friends. Sometimes they look at me. I have like 3 heads, and I say, just close your eyes and look up your life, and you probably can watch your whole movie in about 2 minutes. That's exactly however old you are, that's about 2-3 minutes. And that's actually how you do it. Now, I did exactly that personally. And I took my photos since I was a kid, a baby. And then I put all my photos that I could find for all my age, and they added about 2 minutes. and then literally, and then when I started actually, just as you see the photos, you kind of get reminiscence on those moments, and it comes back. But really, I was able to see pretty much all my lifetime, I was maybe 47 at the time, and I see that was about 2 minutes worth. So it gave me a whole different perspective about life, because, hey, before you know it, it's gone. Or even if it's not gone, before you know it, your health is not the same. Your abilities are not the same. So we thrive in crazy, yet we can do better while we can enjoy our lives.
And exactly what you're saying there is one of the strongest arguments for trusting and having altruism and being part of the human race, because you see, each of our lives are really short and brief.
Very.
But Hurricane, if you look at what we've done collectively as human beings, all right, we are all part of a greater story, all right? Now, we all don't have to be brilliant, but we all contribute just a little bit to this great story. Right. And so you get this idea of the balance between the individual, because we all want to have good individual lives, but we're part of a collective. We're part of a bigger story. And that's what we need to emphasize at the moment, that we will all feel that we have greater worth, in a sense, when we can be part of the bigger family of the human race. And so if everybody looks at their own life in 2 minutes, but if you project yourself as part of the human race in 500 years' time, how would we like people to remember people of the early 21st century? What do we still need to get right? Okay. And then individually, we can all strive to be part of something that is collectively such that people in 500 years' time, they will go, you know what? They did this and this wrong, but then they did this. Okay. And we got to applaud that. That's what would really make us feel good beyond our 2 minutes. All right. I know we won't be around to share it, but we will have added to a good story.
Well, that's legacy, right? That's actually
legacy. That's right.
That's what I mean. Look, we look at arts, we look at, you know, science, we look at technology, and we go back to the source, the first people that actually designed things, invented things, right? That came up with mathematical equations and things like that. And they left something behind that the world speaks of today. And those are the basis of our growth and evolution and technology and all that. But you're right, but those are a few. The thing is that each and every one can do. We can do all that good stuff. we can all live a good, you know, thing. And on the flip side, we look back in history and see all the tyranny and the destruction and some of these folks that did really horrible genocides and things like that. And they lived, they're gone, but you know, all they left is chaos, and people don't like them. They don't speak well about them, and that's, you know, so really your legacy can be good or bad, but there's a good chance, to your point, if we all focused on building a better future for the next generations. Sometimes I joke with my kids and I say, I feel bad for you guys and your kids because this world is going bad. And you know, and I feel bad literally because I know, you know, it's just things are not getting easier. Maybe technology.
No, they're not. But and there are a lot of young people in particular that are despairing because they're looking at all the collective problems that we have. And as an individual, we all seem so small, right? So the question comes, what can I do? How do I matter? But here's the thing, if we all strive to do the best in our individual lives, in our individual calling, right? All of that collectively will then be able to contribute to a collectively better future. So the way that we can all improve the world is next time you meet somebody else, just improve your interaction with them. Just do your job a little bit better. Just see if you can strive just a little bit more. Making a whole lot of small differences collectively will get us out of this mess. Because Hurricane, you know that there are some parts of the world that are heading towards war, all right?
Yes.
Okay, now that's crazy because at the end of World War II, all the young people said, never again. We're not going to let this happen again. This was awful, all right? But unfortunately, we forget, right? So if through education and communication we can remember, never again, perhaps we can go into a better direction.
Amen to that. Well, listen, I mean, listen, I can say amen to that. That's great, but also I can act to that. And I think from this platform and from your message, that's where we need to be. Each and every one of us is responsible for making that change. And you said it, just one piece at a time. Each one of them can contribute. We can make the world a better place. And I mean, we're talking about environment. You're talking about war. You know, I mean, listen, you're obviously not going to allow a nation or party to do bad to you, right? Self-defense is something that is, you know, that you have to do when you have to, but you know, you don't orchestrate it, you don't instigate it, that kind of thing, right? It's not, you don't go swing in and expect nobody to hurt you back or at least fight back, right? But that's a general rule. But really on the flip side, you know, we all can be good and help each other and work towards a better thing. And it's psychological, right? So the more we think about it positively, the more we're probably going to do. And the more we don't, the more we will probably just not contribute. We talk about environment.
Okay. So you're just talking about the environment, you know? Okay, so let's say somebody, science calculates that we've got to plant 1 billion trees, all right? So the problem goes, who's going to plant a billion trees? Who's going to plant a billion trees? All right. And it's very difficult to find somebody who's going to plant a billion trees. All right. But if you get a billion people who are each willing to plant one tree, all right. Now, I know that's idealistic and I know that's not going to happen. But at least you, whoever you are, all right, plant your tree. Be on the side of the tree planters, right? Because that way we may get 500 million trees planted. It's already better than none, all right? We've all got our part to do.
Well, actually, that is not a very difficult thing to do. You're right. I mean, it's not expensive to plant a tree. And if it's, you know, we save money to do a lot of things, and maybe if maybe we'll start an initiative. How about that? You know, seriously, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's something. I like the idea. So everybody, you know, just go get to nursery, pick up a tree and put it up there, you know, I mean, somewhere in nature to grow. Maybe again, there's the other part is maybe we have to look at different construction material than just, you know,
That's
trees.
right.
I mean, and they're doing that now. I mean, some places they're using different material than actually wood for construction. So therefore there's less trees, you know, cut. But again, urbanism, right? You have to build cities and you got to expand and you get into the fields. Then the forest gets taken. Then you have the fires and so on and so forth. But you're right. At the end of the day, we can do it. I mean, it can be done. Everything can be done. And if humans want, I mean, listen, we're spending money to go to Mars. We're spending money to do ventures in other, you know, parts of space. And it costs a lot less to do these trees than going there.
It does. And I've just got to bring the science back in, because the science actually shows that we don't just need a billion trees. We actually need about 1 trillion trees. Okay. So that actually means about 1,000 trees for each of us. Okay. For each of the billion people. All right. Now, so the argument against that is we still need to work on larger structures, all right? We still need to work on some sort of a mechanism so that we have this coordinated effort. But the thing about that coordinated effort is, okay, now you're talking about managers, politicians, scientists, educators, and a whole lot of people doing their bit for the one effort, all right? And so it becomes more complex than just all of us planting a tree. It becomes, how can we actually contribute to something that is actually good, right? And to do that, we actually need to agree on what is good. And from a scientific point of view, science does actually have good and bad. Survival is good, all right? Life is good. Death, destruction, and annihilation, they're not good. There's just okay, so there is a value system there that if we could actually move forward to each play our part in our collective survival, our legacy would be wonderful.
Well, listen, I mean, I hope shows like this, your podcast, you know, the work you do out there, and there's so many other people that are out there trying to send these messages out there and feed in, you know, the positivity to the world. You know, eventually, I mean, there are people that will, it can get contagious enough to get a momentum, and hopefully we can get some stuff. Now, ultimately, trillion trees is a big number, but even with that, I mean, you can do 1,000 trees if you want. I mean,
That's right.
You know, in a lifetime you can do it. I mean, if you do a tree, I mean, what is it, 365 days a year? I mean, you could do every other once every 10 days. You can do three trees a month. I mean, in a lifetime you can do it. I mean, there's so many, and that's 1 billion people. We have 7 billion plus, so we can actually still do better. And you're right. If you reduce the footprint, that will work. I mean, there's so many ways we can do things. Sorry.
Yes, that's right. That's right. In fact, let's face it, we're not going to get 1 billion people out there planting a tree each, okay? But you're putting on this podcast. We're having this conversation. Hopefully out there, somewhere in your listening audience, there's a person who says, I know how to organize tree planting. I could be part of that, right? Mm-hmm. And we could give them just the spark that they need to organize a certain business and do it and even make money out of it. okay, somebody else could be listening and say, oh, is Dr. Heim right on the science there? I'm not sure. So they look on the science and they say, oh yeah, he was right here, but he was wrong there. And all of a sudden they're sparked to sort of say, no, I'm going to get this information out there of what needs to be done. And that then causes a chain to somebody else that says, you know what? I can do that and we can actually make money out of that, okay? Then by doing these things, we can start a chain reaction from our podcast here to something that can actually start the momentum. I mean, there are car manufacturers now that are saying, all right, no more petrol engine cars. We're just going completely electric, or we're going completely hydrogen. We're going to go
Denmark or one of the countries, Scandinavia.
Yeah, Volvo in Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They want everything to be, electric, I think.
That's right. That's right. And they're figuring out that they can make money out of it. All right. That's the whole thing. There's a lot of money to be made. We can actually be more prosperous. But I'm going out of my area now, Hurricane. This is all economics and politics and manufacturing.
But remember, so politics are, based on humans. Humans are based on psychology. And so we're still on the same topic.
Yeah.
Everything.
Go on. It all relates back to the human brain, okay? And the human brain does strive for life and survival. And here's the thing, that's actually good, all right? It actually wants to be alive. So all of our activities going to science, manufacturing, politics, management, people interaction is all a result of us wanting to survive well together. So according to the science, if we work it out, all right, okay, we can get there.
Well, I know we will. Maybe not in a lifetime, but it will happen. And I hope nothing worse comes on in this world to kind of, I guess shakes it a little bit in a different way or another. But but if the earth stays and then everything is right, I mean, I think humans should learn again and do better and better. And we learn from things. I mean, we see things going on, and we should literally reflect on like, whoa, well, we didn't do this right. Like you said earlier, let's do it differently. Let's find a better way. There's always a better way.
There is.
We
can find it.
So I know it's funny because, this is supposed to be a Q&A question session. And
well, it's our first one. Sort of people have got to get to know us and be comfortable with the format. And I think the questions will start coming.
They will, and I have a couple that I had received, just a few. We can, at least for their pleasure, because they did send.
That's good. That's good.
I was hoping that someone could call in right now and dial in. I mean, I have the number on the screen. So, anyways, if you're listening, 848-482-8052, call in and you can ask the question direct. But we have about 10 minutes left on the show. But so. One of the questions, and I'm not mentioning names, just the plain question. Someone asked that, what is happening to me? I have little interest or pleasure in doing anything.
Yeah. Okay, is that the question? Little pleasure?
Well, just basically, they just don't have any, they don't feel anything. They just have no pleasure doing anything. They're just kind of like, blah, it's nothing going on. I mean, that's the question. So it says,
yeah. No, that's fine. This actually happens surprisingly often, Hurricane. And the strange thing is that somebody in an environment where there are a lot of pleasure devices and a lot of ways to get pleasure is actually feeling less pleasure than people who, okay, let me take you back 100 years in an underdeveloped country, right, where somebody was given a book, all right? And they went, oh my God, I've got a book. And they get so much pleasure out of this one book because their lives are devoid of a book, right? So what I'm saying is the relative nature of pleasure. Pleasure in the brain is mediated by dopamine. But you see, we can get saturated with pleasure. And the best way to see this is actually drugs, all right? When you start taking a drug, all right, you will get a lot of pleasure. But then if you take the same amount of drug, it won't give you the same amount of pleasure. So you've got to take more. You've got to keep taking more of the drug to get the same amount of pleasure. This almost defines addiction. But what happens in the brain is our dopamine receptors regulate depending on how much stimulation and pleasure there is. Hurricane, we live in a world where we're getting so much pleasure stimulating, particularly through our screens and movies. I mean, I was 11 years old before I saw my first movie in color, right? These days, people are watching 2-3 movies a week, all right? Which means their brain is getting saturated by pleasure and it doesn't become pleasurable anymore. Okay, and so a lot of young people in particular are in this situation that the person who's asked this question, how do I get pleasure? The whole thing is that we can't strive just for pleasure, right? Because it gets saturated. And I talk about 4 brain chemicals, dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin for love, serotonin for feeling calm and comfortable, and endorphins for feeling together and belonging as part of the whole that we all need. And here's the thing, when we get together with people, you will get a full gamut of those 4 brain chemicals, a full dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And you will start to feel more pleasure because you're starting to enter the world of people where you're getting to know people. And you know what? Getting to know people is an unlimited game. It's a game that we can play and just get more and more. You can never get enough love. All right. You can never get enough sense of belonging. You can never get enough of that sense of comfort. But pleasure, you can get too much pleasure. And that's when people's brain numb down so that you go, you know what? Nothing's giving me enough pleasure anymore. So to that person, I would say, leave the pursuit of pleasure. Look for love, meaning, and belonging with other people. And then your sense of pleasure will come back. So earlier I talked about the people who go out in wilderness therapy. Mm-hmm. That is great for people who are addicted to substances, all right? Because you leave the pleasure and you work on trust. And trust is a form of love. So I give long-winded answers, Hurricane, but you know.
No, listen, this is deep stuff. I'm absorbing. I'm taking it all in. And again, this is good because this is recorded as well. So people can see this over and over and they can actually get from it. You know what I mean? So it's not so much just for the person who asked the question. I think this may be something that a lot of people will be asking themselves right now.
I feel it in my own life. All right. All of us surf the internet and listen to videos and ideas, and it gets to a stage where you go, oh, this is all too much. Why am I doing this? You know, and it's because it's not connected with other people directly. And we need that people connection. We are social creatures as humans, you know. Well,
we talked about that. I mean, you got to be involved. You got to be with people, touch, and, you know, and it's amazing because we lost that, you know, in the new world that we live in. I mean, people used to hang out. They used to picnic and camp and play outdoors. Now, you know, the new generation, they're addicted to their computers and their phones. Like my daughter, she walks with her phone in her hand. I mean, like she almost has one hand. The other one is taken. It's crazy. You know, a good example, my son now more like recently, he started like he discovered basketball.
That's great.
You know, so now, you know, he's playing basketball every day outside, you know, but he doesn't have a lot of friends. So maybe sometimes I play with him or, you know, some friends come in, but it's a change for him.
Yes.
It's a different change. And he sees it. He's really, this is cool. I like it. And I grew up outdoors. I mean, you know, I remember when I was a kid, TV was literally 6 hours a day. That's it. and the kids programming, you know, I mean, again, I grew up in Morocco. So the TV program started at 6 p.m., ended at 11:30 p.m. And there was a half hour in cartoons and the rest is not about you.
That's right.
So that was it. So you really didn't have much time to spend on TV. And talking about color TV, again, my first color TV was like in the early 80s. So it was like way, you know, but today, you know, my kids, they have TV, they have everything, technology, they grew up with it, right? And they're addicted to it. They can't even, you know, remove themselves. The joke is we had a black, you know, like something hit, you know, on one of those electrical poles here. And so we had a complete blackout in the neighborhood. And so the kids didn't have anything to do now. No more games, no more nothing. So they wound up, hey, can we play some board games? So we came back downstairs and picked up the board games and had candles, and we spent a couple hours just doing that, and it was fun.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yes, unfortunately, in psychiatry, we measure things from 2007. Because in 2007 is when we all got mobile phones, we all got smartphones, we all were able to do internet on a phone. And in youth mental health, depression rates, anxiety rates, and addiction rates started moving upwards at a faster rate from 2007, right? That's frightening. That's frightening. That means that we have to control the screen use, okay? And here's the thing, it's not the kids' fault, all right? They're just going where their brains want to go, all right? As a society, we need to recognize this, and we need to value life without screens. And we don't know how to do it yet. But that's a whole new discussion. We could go there another day, Hurricane.
That will be the next week, or the next month.
Next month, yeah.
Next month. Well, so one more question in the interest of time. And by the way, thank you for the answer for that one. So hopefully, if you're listening, that was the answer to that question about, I have very little interest and pleasure in doing things. I don't know why. So that was a great, answer, and a deep one. Another one that I have for you, but one that actually I want to learn about it too. I think a lot of people fall in this one. I'm having a big problem falling asleep. I just cannot sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is how to fall asleep. Okay.
Well, how to fall asleep, but what's causing it? I mean, psychologically, because there's nothing. I mean, the person, there's nothing more in the question, but I'm assuming that this person does just not sleep. You know, there's got to be factors to do that. And I'm thinking personally, it's got to be when your mind is thinking. It happens to me sometimes when you're preoccupied and you're thinking of something, or you have a project, you just can't sleep.
That's right.
But that could be the case. Could be stress. Could be other things. And so
that's right. That's right. And I too experience sleep problems. All right. Human beings are a strange situation. It is strange that we feel the need to take a pill to do something that should be natural, just falling asleep. Right. And a lot has to do with the projects that we have going through our mind, because you see, the mind is an amazing place. All right. It goes on forever. So I will think about people that I have spoken to during the day, people I've been taking care of, problems that are unsolved. When you add to that the amount of people that think about global issues and all the other things that get unsolved, our base level of anxiety is going up. In fact, what I say during this coronavirus time, we're all carrying an extra 20 pounds of anxiety, and that's going to affect our sleep. So we actually need to calm the mind and tell it to shut up, all right? And we actually have more control over our thoughts than we like to give ourselves credit for, but it takes practice. So rather than take a pill or drink some alcohol to get to sleep, there are a couple of things. First of all, make sure the room is dark and silent. Get some exercise during the day. Exercise makes for a better sleep. But when you get to sleep, you go through each part of your body, you breathe in and out and tell it to go to sleep, relax. And then at the very last, you go to your mind and you say, brain, relax and go to sleep. Brain, relax and go to sleep, all right? And here's the thing, it won't work the first night, it won't work the second night. We actually need to practice. But if you practice for 3 weeks in a row, and this takes about 5 minutes every night, you will find that you will actually be able to let your brain know it is time to sleep. Now, there's a whole lot of other factors as well, but what I'm zeroing in on is this idea that our brains are going at 1,000,000 miles an hour because we all have unsolved problems, okay? And I also want to start to bring in this idea of practice. Trying something once is not going to work, but keep practicing, okay? And let yourself go to sleep, okay?
Well, it's almost like self-hypnosis.
Yes, it is. It is. It's a form of self-hypnosis, right? Self-hypnosis, meditation, relaxation, deep breathing, however you do it, you consciously look at your own thoughts and say, time to settle this down. Just let it breathe out, okay? Don't have a mobile phone in bed with you, right? Don't look at a screen for at least an hour before you go to bed, right? Do some chill things, listen to a bit of music, have a great conversation, spend time with somebody that you love, all right? Those sort of things all help going to sleep.
Doctor, I think that's pretty decent for that question. I think that gives us a good formula to practice. So folks, you're listening, you're watching. This question came into the studio. Again, it's for one person, but I think it affects all of us, if not the majority of us. And it's a very good practice that we got from Dr. Heim. Again, an expert, years of experience, and he handles psychology in a whole different light, and coming all the way from Australia here, from Saturday,
Yes,
from the
Saturday,
future. I love this. Yeah, you call Saturday, it from the future. So we are about the end of the show here. So thank you for sending the questions, folks. You're watching. This was a live Q&A session for you. We will have these coming up once a month. So please send in your questions in advance. We'll have them ready for the doctor. And also interact with us. There is a number on the screen, 848-482-8052. That's dedicated to this show. So when you have a moment the next time on the show, we'll promote it again in advance. Just join us and you will not regret it. It will be fun. Instead of me asking the question, it'll be your questions. It'll be even better. So Dr. Heim is ready for that. And he has a lot to offer to us. So sorry. Thank you very much, Doctor, for the time. Just have a great weekend, and then we'll talk soon. And then you and I will connect, in terms of what the next session would be scheduled for.
That's fantastic, Hurricane. Thanks for doing all of this. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll move a whole lot of people forward, okay?
That's the purpose. That's the objective, and we'll keep at it. We're not going to give up here.
No, certainly not. Certainly
hopefully with the next couple of shows, we'll have so many questions we can't even get to them, and people will be lined up on the call. I only can take one call at a time. So I was concerned about that. Like, what happens if other people call at the same time? I was like, one call. Once the call hangs up, please dial back in. I'm gonna have to get a few phones and just be able to pick up one at a time. But Doctor, thank you so much, and so enjoy the rest of your day, the weekend over there, and hopefully not too cold. And we'll stay in touch, and we will promote the next episode or the next live Q&A. So folks, again, you're watching, you're listening, look forward to the next one next month. And bye. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Hurricane. I'll see you at the end of July.
Yes, sir. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.